There you go, you're live.
So we're having a file. I wonder if that's a test or not.
Okay, you're live.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? All right. Well, welcome everyone to this open day for countryside management and wildlife and conservation management here at SRUC Oatridge campus. My name is Ignacio. I'm one of the lecturers of this team. We are around 4 or 5 staff members teaching this program at Oatridge. Well, a little bit about me. As you can tell, my name is not quite common around Scotland. You might tell by my accent as well. I'm from Chile. I've been teaching at SRUC for the last almost 5 years already, and it's been a great opportunity. Um, I've been doing some research as well. My main area of research is rural business and regenerative agriculture. And of course, I've been teaching in this program as well as my main activity. So the idea of this presentation is for you to know a little bit about this program, about the structure, about the different modules, and the options for you and future students here at SRUC Outreach Campus. All right. And if you have any question, we will have some time at the end of my presentation for any question that you may have. All right. So let's go to the next slide. So, well, in that picture actually is one of the other lecturers of our team, Ian, from a few years ago. And here we are going to explore the different courses that the students can study here with us. So we have the NC level of countryside management, and HNC, that's the first year of the degree for wildlife and conservation management. Then the HND level for the same program, that's just the natural progression into the second year. And then you can go all the way to get your degree in wildlife and conservation management. That's 2 extra years. So you need to do a third and a fourth year. And at the moment, if you want to explore that option, so you can start, for example, starting with us at NC level for countryside management, or you can sign in directly for or HNC. Then after 2 years with us, you will have the option to keep studying all the way to your degree level, but not here at Oatridge yet. So you will need to move to Edinburgh campus in King's Building. So at the moment, I'm one of the lecturers that is teaching through the whole program at NC level. Actually, I was teaching to the NC students this morning, HNC, HND, all the way to the degree level in Edinburgh. And I think one of the main advantages of a student studying this program here with us at SRUC is the flexibility. So if you want to, you can choose to stay 1 year with us, get your HNC certification, and then go explore all the opportunities that are available to you after getting that diploma, or work for a few years, then go back to get your HND and keep studying all the way to get your degree. Then if you want to, you can even apply for postgraduate student studies and get your master degree with us, wildlife and conservation management. And also we offer a PDA in ecological surveying as distant learning program. So how can I access to these programs? It's the same thing I was saying earlier. So you can sign up for the NC and in countryside management as a lower level. It's a very good introduction to higher education. I will say it's like a gentler introduction to higher education because it's a bit easier or more practical than the program or the modules that you will find during the HNC and HND. So it's a very, very good introduction to higher education, and it will allow you to take that year to think if that's the right area for you. Then you can you can progress here with us at Oatridge all the way to the HNC and then to the HND for your second year. And then, as I said earlier, then you can choose to get your whole degree for 2 extra years in Edinburgh campus. And then after getting your degree, if you want to, and especially for those that are more keen into the academic world or research, you can also try to get your master degree. Or again, something more practical like a PDA in ecological surveying. And again, as I said before, the main advantage of this is the flexibility. Many of my students, former students, have chosen to start with the NC level. Again, it's a very good introduction to higher education. Then they can take a year off to work, right? To think about their next career moves. Then they can go back to the HNC or just continue to the HNC immediately after completing their NC level. Then perhaps take another year to work or even opt as a part-time student as well, and then continue your educational journey with us through the HND or all the way to the degree level. So there are many options, and there is no just one right path, right? Exactly. So there is plenty of flexibility to explore other options over all these years during your educational journey. So again, all these programs, NC, HNC, or HND, you can choose between being a full-time or a part-time student. Obviously, if you choose part-time, that will take longer to complete. But again, in some cases, you might need to work or perhaps you have other responsibilities. And in that case, being a part-time student might be the best alternative for you. If you choose full-time, that's 3 days a week here on campus, plus all the other activities that you need to do on your own time. Normally, our day will start at 9 in the morning all the way to 4 p.m. If you choose being a part-time student, that's just 1 or 2 days a week. That will depend on the specific term you find yourself. Perhaps during term 1 or 2, you might have more. You will need to spend a bit more time on the campus, and then by the end of the year, you will have a bit more freedom to do other activities as well. As I said before, a normal year is divided in 3 different terms. And for each one of these terms, you will have different modules. Each one of these blocks or each one of these terms covers around 10 weeks, plus a review week or a catch-up week at the end in case you need to review an assessment or if you need a second opportunity or more time for any of your assessments during that term. And also each subject or each unit is completed within these 10 weeks. So that's the overall structure of our program here. So again, the year is divided in 3 different terms, and within each one of these terms, that is around 10 weeks long, you will find different modules, right? Some modules are mandatory, others are optional, and depending if you are full-time or a part-time student, the modules each term might look a bit different. So the first term is from September to November, the second one, December to February, and the third one that we are about to start is between March and June. Also, even though I haven't mentioned this, there is obviously some time off too. This is not only studying 24/7. You will have 1 week off during October, 2 weeks during Christmas, during the winter break, and then 2 weeks also during Easter. Plus, of course, all the summer break as well. So here an example of the different units or modules that you might find if you choose to start as NC in countryside management. So, for example, you will find yourself studying principles of biodiversity conservation, countryside recreation and access, ecology and wildlife identification, geodiversity and landscape in Scotland, practical conservation, and rural land use. Those are the core mandatory units for this program. There are also a few optional units as well. So here are some of the optionals, like countryside woodwork, introduction to first aid, map reading, countryside interpretation, volunteering, investigating animal wildlife, sustainable resource use. That's the one I was teaching this morning, by the way. Habitat assessment, communications, and practical conservation. So, and this is the overall structure for the HNC and the HND level as well. You will find mandatory units that belong to the core of this program, and also some optional units in order to complete the necessary requirements to get your certification. Most of these units will involve some work within the classroom, right? Theory, but also, and I think that's the main like unique point about SRUC is like involve a lot of practical work, So you will find yourself with your wellies on, right, in the mud, in the field, completing surveys, doing path work, doing woodwork, and plenty of other activities as well. Especially at NC level, I will say NC level is the one that has the most practical components of them all. But again, HNC, HND, all the way to the degree level, all of them involve a lot of practical work too. A lot of site visits, field trips as well. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Then, as I said before, NC is very practical. Well, also it's from Wednesday to Friday. Half the units are practical based, and most units will have practical other elements, from site visits to surveys. So in my case, for example, I was teaching this term sustainable resource use. So even though it's quite heavy on the theory, today the students were completing a presentation when I asked them to have the role of a sustainability consultant for a company. So they have to choose a company as IKEA, Coca-Cola, or others, Nestle, choose one of their iconic products and try to make it more sustainable, right? So even though it's an activity within the classroom, we try to make it fun, we try to make it interactive, and also develop other skills as well. So it's not only about the content itself, about sustainability, but also to develop their communication skills as well. A few weeks ago, we went to, on the same model, we went to a recycling facility as well, talk with the people working there about their challenge, about the type of process they do over there. And then you will find the same group of students working, building things in the woodwork, or doing path work as well, conducting surveys. So it's really, really practical, and you will find yourself doing different things every week. Also, of course, every unit has different assessments, and normally these are practical work or write a report or a presentation. So, as I said before, this assessment can take different forms. So it can be like a short quiz, a practical activity, a short report, or again, a brief presentation too. Then, well, and again, if you want to, you can start directly with your HNC in wildlife and conservation management. These take place Monday to Wednesday each week, with sessions during the morning and then during the afternoon as well. So the HNC has 15 units in total, so you need to achieve at least 12 to get your certification. And you also have 9 optional units too. So within the optional ones, you have interpretation and visitor management techniques, classification and ID of different organisms, planning and development, heritage studies, wildlife management, information technology, like IT, and conservation skills. And within the mandatory units, we have biodiversity conservation, ecology and ecosystems, geology and geomorphology, rural land use, environmental awareness, and wildlife and conservation management as part of the graded unit, when you will have to come up with project idea using all the skills you've been learning through your first year. So here's just an example of an average timetable for your HNC. So you will see that your week will be pretty busy, right? From Monday to Wednesday. And here you will also see the name of the other lecturers involved on this program and the different modules and how they are divided through the week, right? So remember, you have block 1, 2, and 3, the 3 different terms during the year. And then Monday to Wednesday, you will have different units during the morning and then during the afternoon as well. So it seems like pretty intensive, and I think it is. Involve several assessments as well, but again, also involve a lot of practical work, just as the NC. But I think perhaps one of the main difference, besides the difference within each module, right? At HNC level is a bit more intensive than the NC academically. But it still is a very good starting point. Also, all morning and afternoon classes have short breaks in between, and you will also have 1 hour for lunch between both sessions. And then your second year of the degree, or HND, in wildlife and conservation management, this will take place Tuesday to Thursday each week, with modules running in the morning and in the afternoon as well. So again, another 15 units for this year, plus your 15 units from your HNC. Optional unit 6 as biology, animal care, freshwater environments, marine environments, and GIS, or geographic information systems. And then some mandatory units, obviously: ecological surveying, data collection and handling methods, education for sustainability, sustainable tourism and rural communities, applied interpretation, terrestrial ecology, habitat management, and then working again on your graded unit number 2. So it's this end of the term project when you put into practice all the things you have learned through your second year. And again, besides the main difference of having different modules, right, that most of them are the continuation from your HNC year, is also a bit more intensive than your first year in academic terms. So you will, but at the same time, you will have more experience too, because this will be your second year or your third year if you start from the NC level. So you will get more used to it, more demanding assessments, and another type of activities too, and also involve a lot of practical activities, as I said before. So the HNC and HND, so your first 2 years of the degree, are perhaps a bit less practical than the NC. There is more theory, so you need to read more. You will find yourself writing more reports. But I will say most of the units have some practical elements too. And those practical elements are you will be conducting surveys by yourself or identifying different species on the field, but also visiting different places to learn from park rangers, consultant officers, and others, especially from former students too. I think that's one of the other advantage of SRUC. We have a really strong alumni network that we rely a lot on. So a lot of our activities are based uh, or we conduct these activities with the support of former students. I will show you a few examples at the end of this presentation. Again, every unit will have assessments. Normally it's 2 or 3 assessments per unit. And this will take, and this will normally be written report or presentations. But there are also other type of assessments too. So for example, for one of the modules that I teach, called rural land use, the first assessment is a podcast. So you need to work within a group, 4 or 5 students, and record a podcast about the environment, climate change, the use of different, the change of land use in Scotland, and other topics. And that's normally one of the favorite activities of my students during that term. There are checklists and forms to complete as well. As I said before, it's a bit more intensive in academic terms. Short quizzes too, written or recorded reports, short answer questions, practical activities, and others. So there is like a variety of different assessments. So if you think that perhaps writing reports is not your thing, well, don't need to worry, because we're going to guide you through all the steps of how to write a report, but also you will find yourself completing assessments that are totally different from a standard report, as presentation, these quizzes, or practical activities. So one of the things that I always highlight from SRUC is the level of student support, or the support that the students can get. So we have several staff members that their main role, obviously, is to support the students in different ways, with learning disabilities or students that perhaps are struggling at some point during the term. There is no doubt that you will find the support that you need during your time with us. Also, it's normal to fail sometimes. That's absolutely normal. Actually, we expect you to fail at some point with your assessment. That's not the end of the world. And again, you will find the time and you will find the support to complete your assessments again as you need it. So you can apply for extensions in case you need more time. There are certain mitigation circumstances. You can apply for extra time for your assessment in case of some learning disabilities, or for example, there are also quiet room for different tests or exams. Well, you will find similar programs in other campuses too. SRUC has several campuses around Scotland, so you will find the same structure, for example, in Barony. Edinburgh is just for the degree after you complete your HNC, HND. So a lot of my former students from Oatridge are also are getting their degree back in Edinburgh. So I normally go to Edinburgh one day a week to teach over there, and every year I found a couple of my former students from Oatridge trying to get their degree in Edinburgh, and they are doing just fine. You can also get your degree from Aberdeen, and also there's some options of distant learnings at HNC level. Well, here at Oatridge, I might be biased, but this campus is unbelievable. I will suggest for each one of you to try to take the time to visit the campus, because honestly, it has all the elements that you want in a proper campus, right? It's not just a building, obviously. The facilities are amazing. The green spaces are great. There are most of our activities, including surveys or practical work, um, uh, we can develop all those extra activities here in the campus without having to travel to someplace else. Um, and that's, of course, is a huge advantage. We also offer accommodation. There are options for student transportation within certain areas next to West Lothian. For example, it says returning to Livingston and then Uphill Station as well. There is a whole cafeteria, a canteen that offers breakfast, lunch. As I said before, I work in Edinburgh campus as well, and the canteen here is 10 times better. Lunches are great, uh, plenty of alternatives. And I know it's just a small detail, but actually makes a huge difference. The library is very good quality as well. It's a massive place. You will find plenty of resources. You can borrow laptops, use the computers there to do your work, study in peace. It's a very peaceful location as well. There are common rooms for different activities, computer rooms as well. So now we are approaching the end of this presentation, and perhaps some of you are wondering, well, this sounds really interesting. All the modules seems great, especially if you're keen to study something related with the wildlife, with the conservation, with natural spaces, ecosystems, right? Learn more about how we can preserve all these natural places that we love. But then you might wonder, well, what can I do after getting these certifications, after getting my NC, my HNC, HND, or the full degree, right? Well, here are a few options. But actually, I will say this is an example because I have former students that are working in other areas as well related to conservation, and it's an ever-expanding field. It's one of those areas that, well, at least over the last years here in the UK, the trend said the demanding for these kind of professionals is increasing, and it will keep increasing over the next years. So here are a few examples. You might work as a park ranger for local authorities or charities, ecological surveyor. A lot of former students are working as ecological surveyors right now. As an ecologist for different organizations, planning officer, access officer, community development officer, heritage preservation jobs. I have a few former students. I will show you a few examples in next of former students working for important organizations here in Scotland, in that area. Educational jobs as well, state work, contractors, consultants, and plenty of others as well. Also, and perhaps this is the part that students like the most. Studying with us involve a lot of site visits during the year. Normally, these take place just during the morning, or perhaps it's just a whole day, for example, if you're going to a place that is a few hours away. But we also run study tours every year, and we normally stay in these places for at least 4 to 6 days. So last year, and well, over several years too, we have visited the Isle of Rum with our students, and we have worked with the local organizations in that place, so with Nature Scout and well, other research organizations as well, working toward conservation. And it's normally highlighted as one of the best activities through the year. Last year in particular was really, really fun. Here are a few pictures from those study tours. I will show you a few others after this presentation. That's not from Rome, I believe. I think this is from another study tour that I sadly haven't been there yet. I only been to Rome a few times. But yeah, last year also some students at H&D level had the opportunity to visit Romania to work with a local farming family over there and work with them for a couple of weeks. And I think here are a few pictures from those trips. I mean, last year we had plenty of activities and opportunities. The trip to Rome, to Romania, um, John McGregor, other member of the staff, took the NCs to a trip to South Africa, if I remember correctly. And I think this year they're planning a trip to Costa Rica. So it seems like every year there are plenty of different opportunities. We cannot guarantee exactly where we are going each year because that depends on funding and other organizations too. But we are always planning activities for our students, especially if we can stay in those places for a week or even more. For example, this year we're thinking on changing the trip to the Isle of Rome to Isla instead, and work with the guys from RSVP over there. Have a few more pictures from Romania. And as I said before, there are opportunities to travel to Africa, Central America, Costa Rica. This might involve some an additional cost to the students, but normally we will try to keep it as low as possible. And that's the end of this presentation. So I wonder if you can still see my screen.
Yeah, we can still see your presentation there. I'd make sure. If you stop sharing, then I'll ask some of the questions that have come in.
Okay, so let me show you something else because I just have something else here to. No, it's not that one. Give me 1 second. This one here. I wonder if you can see this website on your screen.
Yeah, we can see that.
Perfect. So this is just from a few days ago. I took my students, my second-year student, H&D, to Blackness Castle, where a former student is working on the heritage team. So we were conducting our annual coastal survey. This is for the marine environments module. So we were conducting our coastal survey over there, but also we had the opportunity to have a private tour around the castle with our former student, Julia. So it was a very, very good activity. Well, here you can see the students performing the coastal survey. Then we submit this data that we collect that day to formal organizations that use that data for conservation efforts. Okay, seems like I cannot show you anything else. And then this is just a few pictures from our last trip to the Isle of Rome. This is also from last year. So you can get an idea of all the different activities that we conduct with the students over 4 or 5 days over there. So we were doing some conservation efforts at the local beach, working with the ponies from Nature Scott, identifying different species. We work also with one of the oldest or longest running research efforts in the UK. It's about a genetic study of the red deer in the Isle of Rome, and we work closely with those researchers looking for antlers, and then we send those antlers that we found to Edinburgh for a genetic study. It's just a little map of that. So yeah, so that's it. So I will stop sharing, and then I think we will have a few minutes for questions too.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's a few questions that have come in for you. The first one was, if I want to do 2 years wildlife and conservation, do I apply for the HNC first, or can you apply for the HND?
You need to apply for the HNC directly. Yes. Yeah. So, and then once you finish your HNC, you will have the option to apply for your HND.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What trips are on the HNC? That's a good question.
So with the HNC, we went to the Isle of Rome. That's the trip we went last year. That was with the HNC. So that trip is normally for the first year students. But also during the year, we had several other trips, for example, to Yellow Creek in Slowdian. We went to Bow Hill House near to the borders. I'm just talking about my field trips, but of course, all the other lecturers, they have their own trips through the year. Normally to sites of a special scientific interest, national parks as well. But normally these trips are just for the day.
Okay. Can you tell me, do the NC students automatically get a place on the HNC if they pass the NC?
That's a good question. For what I know, yes. If they complete their NC without any major issues, and they want to keep studying with us, I don't see why they wouldn't get a place on the HNC.
Yeah, if they pass the
Absolutely.
NC and they wanted to go on to the HNC, they would need to apply
Yes.
for UCAS for the HNC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But in my experience, all the students that complete their NC successfully and want to keep studying with us, there's never been any kind of barrier or anything.
Brilliant.
Yeah, more than welcome.
Susan's asking, currently completing an HNC in horticulture, and I'm thinking of moving to wildlife and conservation. Would HNC be more suitable?
I think so, yes. There might be some similar modules, perhaps, and perhaps you can, what is the word? Perhaps we can convalidate, is that the word? Some modules from your previous HNC studies, if there are any similarity. So perhaps you don't need to do them again. Perhaps something related with IT or communication that are quite general. Mm-hmm. But I will suggest that the HNC is the best starting point, even if you have an HNC in a different area.
Okay. Susan's asking again, do you study wildlife much?
That's a good question. I know the name might be a bit misleading. We don't study a lot of animal care, for example. It's different than wildlife. We do study wildlife, especially from a conservation point of view. We study identification of species, but we don't work closely with animals, for example. That's perhaps the main difference. But we do study their ecosystem, their habitats, marine habitats, freshwater habitats, different terrestrial habitats as well. We study their links between different species, how they relate to each other, the ecosystem benefits to to society. But in general, we don't study like animals specifically. If I think that if that was your question.
Yeah, the follow-up question was, do you study birds, raptors?
Yes, we do. I mean, I'm trying to understand the question, because we study them from ecosystem perspective. So we're studying their relationship with their habitat, perhaps with regarding human activities as well, how we can disrupt their habitats, or how we can restore their habitats as well. We conduct bird surveys during the year. That's one of my areas of interest too. So you will see me around the campus with my students conducting bird surveys. but it's different from a program that is specified in animal care. You know, that perhaps they will specialize in how to take care of a wound bird. It's different. It's a different perspective.
Okay. I would like to do the HNC full-time and work part-time in the field. Is there any help at Oatridge to find a role? I'm happy to do volunteer or do paid work. If so, who would I speak to?
So it's possible, absolutely. I had students before completing their HNC full time and doing some volunteer work or some paid work as well on their free time is something that you can do if you are up to the challenge. And the second part of your question was where you can find information about.
Yeah, I'm happy to do volunteering or paid work. If so, who would I speak to?
So about paid work, well, we do have a network of former students that you can access and find opportunities there. We also share continuously on social media opportunities for volunteering and paid work too. I'm not sure if we can guarantee to find you something specifically, right? But we are constantly sharing opportunities, and there is also opportunities for volunteering within SRUC. So there is a group of students that they have their own organization within SRUC when they perform or they run different activities through the year. But it's like an independent organization created by the students, and you can participate if you want to.
Brilliant. What would be the qualification entry requirements for going straight to the BSc?
That's a good question, and I'm not entirely sure. I think that's better if you can ask someone from admission rather than me. I don't want to say the wrong answer or something misleading. So I'm not exactly sure about that.
I can answer that for you. Entry requirements to the BSc, it's 4 hires, 2 Bs and 2 Cs, and Nat 5 or equivalent pass in English and maths. But I would suggest to get in touch with admissions if you have any queries on the entry requirements. Their email address is admissions@sruc.ac.uk, but it will be on the email that I send afterwards.
Great, perfect.
And then Susan's asking again, is forestry subjects covered also?
I will say not directly. We do study woodland habitats, and we do study extensively through the HNC and the HND, but I will say not as a forestry school. So I will say that there are programs that are specifically developed around forestry activities. We tend to study forestry from 2 different perspectives. Of course, from a commercial point of view, but it's mostly from the perspective of management toward conservation of woodland areas. Yeah, so I will say it's a bit different than studying forestry as a different branch. We always study those subjects, and in that case, those habitats from a conservation perspective.
Okay, that seems to be the last question. I'll also mention if anyone wants to come to an on-campus open day, the next event is May the 9th in the afternoon. But again, I'll put that on the email when I send out the recording to this.
Great.
So yep. So I'll leave it to you, Ignacio, to say thank you and goodbye to everyone.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Hopefully, I was able to share my excitement about this program, because honestly, I have been a witness of how relevant this program is, how exciting it is for the former students that are now working toward conservation across the UK, and how much fun I think the students have during the year. Perhaps not that much during the week they need to work on their assessments, but I will say that 60-70% of the time I think they're having a good time here during the field trips, working with their classmates, creating friendships, and having a good time overall. So I think it's a very good alternative, especially if you're keen into the world wildlife and conservation.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Bye bye.